What's going on, everybody? It is Chris from Out West with Chris, and today I want to chat with you about the 3 Waters Kayaks Big Fish 120. This is a pretty interesting kayak, and I've fished out of it 5 or 6 times. This is a newer kayak out on the market, and it is kind of going to target the entry-level kayak fisherman. It's a sub $1,000 kayak. Price is going to vary a little bit depending on your dealer and you know, whether or not you add a rudder on and stuff like that. So we're going to get into some of the features. I'm going to tell you some of my experiences with it and just kind of take a closer look at the 3 Waters Kayak Big Fish 120. The Big Fish 120 is 12 feet long. That is what the 120 stands for, 12 feet long. It weighs in at about 100 pounds with the seat in, and the seat is somewhat permanent. You're not going to be taken out too often. It is 36 inches wide, and that's why you get some pretty good stability. So it's a little bit wide for a kayak, but it is pretty quick for a 36-inch wide kayak. The capacity on this kayak is 400 pounds. So with the paddler and gear, you have a safe capacity of 400 pounds, which is pretty good. It's gonna retail about $999, so just shy of $1,000. That price may vary on the shop you go through, but overall, a pretty good buy for a sub $1,000 kayak. Try doing that in a pedal kayak. Let's go over some of the features. I'm gonna talk about some recommended modifications, and then we'll possibly attempt a stability test. This water is about 48 degrees right now, and it's pretty cold. I don't want to fall in, but maybe we should just do it anyways. Sorry for the boat noise in the background. I can't help it. This is the Delta. There's a bunch of people out having fun. So if you just look down the kayak, it's got some really nice sleek lines to it. One of the main features of this kayak is actually its hull. The hull design is, it's called the Cathedral Hull, and it has really good secondary stability. That primary stability, you know, you kind of rock a little bit. Something that everybody should probably be able to get used to. I'm a big guy. I've never questioned whether or not I was going to have an issue with this kayak for stability reasons. That Cathedral Hull also kind of makes it really fast, okay? This is one of the faster paddling kayaks that I've been out on, and it's nice and wide, but still pretty fast. It's kind of like a catamaran in a way. Up front, you have a nice roto-molded handle, so it's not a metal handle. You know, I used to have a kayak with a metal handle, and I would always burn my hands after, you know, pulling it out. It was just kind of harsh on your hands. This is a nice surface to kind of get a hold of and grip, so that's pretty cool. Right up front here, you have some bungees and a little front storage area. It's an open storage, so it's not a hatch, but you can put a dry bag right up here. You'll also see some rod tip protectors built into the kayak. That is kind of an interesting feature, and it correlates with this little area over here where you could store a fishing rod, and I'll demonstrate that right now. So with the way the rod storage is designed to work, you're supposed to flip this over and latch that down. I don't really feel comfortable having my rod hang out like this, the real portion of it. I know it's probably not an issue, but it's something that I'm not really comfortable with. I've used this feature a little bit. I haven't used it a lot. I think it's going to work pretty good on shorter rods. This rod that I'm running right now is a 7.3. I think something in the 6.6 to maybe 6.10 range, it would work really well. But when you get into your longer rods, it's not going to work that great. And one of the reasons why is if you're, you know, using a crankbait, this is where your hands are going to be, or your legs, and your hooks are going to be right there. Okay. If you have it there, it's not going to be as big of a deal, but if you try to keep it in here, closer to your body, those trebles are going to be right there, ready to poke at you. As we kind of work our way back, right here you'll notice a cool little storage area. I've got a lot of stuff in here. I've got some food, I've got some gloves. So with this storage area, you can actually take it out of the kayak, which is pretty cool, and I'll explain why in just a second. All you got to do is pinch in on these two straps, and it'll unlatch a little latch type thingy that's right there. As you can see, lots of clean storage in here. Here's the top of the pod. This is a lot like the feel-free lure sonar pod, in that you can mount a transducer to the bottom of this unit right here, put your fish finder up top. They have a plug for all of your wiring for your batteries, the wiring to the transducer, all of that good stuff. And you'll have a pod essentially for your fish finder. So if you get done fishing for the day and you want to go eat with your buddies at a restaurant and you're worried about your unit getting stolen, you just pop this off of the kayak, put it in your truck, lock your doors, and you're good to go. I like this feature quite a bit. It does have a little storage area if you don't opt for you know, putting some electronics on top of it. The inside is just nice and clean. The feel-free storage pod, if you're familiar with that, it's got like a bunch of little cavities and cutouts, and it's just not a nice clean storage area. It latches in and secures with these buckles and a little receiver on the kayak. As you can see, and standard with most kayaks, is you have a paddle park with a bungee that wraps over. You've got the Unitrack right here, and this is the feel-free track system. It is on the Three Waters Big Fish, and that's one thing you're going to see a lot of similarities between Feel-Free and Three Waters Kayak. In fact, you'll actually see some Feel-Free logos if you look really close on this kayak right here. I don't know if Three Waters is owned by Feel-Free, but I'm pretty sure that they are made by Feel-Free, these kayaks. So going back to the kayak itself, you have a cup holder right in that area. It's big enough to fit like a larger Yeti, like a Rambler. You have foot pegs that are adjustable, and they adjust by spinning, pulling, and then you spin back to lock. So that's a pretty cool feature. One of the best things about this kayak is it's got some really nice wide open deck space, a ton of deck space. Now the decking material is a hard plastic. It's got some nubs on it for traction, but it wouldn't be my preference for decking material, but you know, it beats not having anything. It is going to be, as you can hear, a little bit loud. So if you're trying to be stealthy, you know, standing up, maybe using a push-pull through a marsh or something like that, this is going to be a little bit on the loud side. There are probably some ways you can get around that. You do have a stand-up assist strap. I don't typically use those, but you got it. You have some storage pockets, some handles right here. You can, this is how I carry it in and out of my truck, as I grab onto the handles and lift it up, which is another nice feature. It's not very heavy for as much capacity as you have. You know, the weight limit to the actual weight of the kayak is pretty reasonable. Now let's talk about the seat. There are some things I really like about this seat. It's a multi-position seat. Here in the back you got an area for storage, a little zippered pocket so you can put sunscreen. You can put a variety of stuff in this little back pocket right here. The seat is it's kind of like a nice mesh fabric, so it's almost a lawn chair style seat, and it does position at multiple heights. It took me a while to kind of figure out the heights that I liked. This is the high height. Here's a mid-level height with the seat kind of slanting forward. And then you have, you can go the seat slanting back if you just want to kick back with a brewski and, you know, chill a little bit. Got all the way down on the bottom on the deck. You'll notice little areas like this. These are pre-plumbing tubes for a rudder system. So your rudder wires will, you'll shove them in there and be able to pull them out. I'm guessing that's where the release, the up and down release on the rudder will go. Working our way to the back, you have more track system. You have rod holders that have a built-in rod leash on them, which is kind of a nice feature. I rarely use that feature, but I think if I was trolling out in the ocean and using this as the rod holder for that purpose, I would probably use it. Here in the back, you've got a nice really big and actually pretty deep rear tank well. You get some little pad eyes essentially for tying down. There is not an integrated tie down system like you might have seen on like a Feel Free lure or anything like that. You're gonna have to use your own bungees to tie down your crates and that type of stuff. Back here though, you do have bungees that come with it, and this is where I carry a dry bag so that I can carry around camera equipment and stuff like that. As we work our way to the rear, you got a drain cap, and here is where you would mount your rudder. So it is ready for a rudder. It's pre-plumbed for a rudder, and in my opinion, you need a rudder. Now, unlike the Feel Free lure that has the wheel and the keel, this doesn't have that feature. It's kind of a bummer. It does have a little scratch guard on that keel, but I would be really weary of dragging this kayak in fear that you're going to wear down your plastic around that scratch guard. So something to be considerate about. So there's a lot of interesting features on this kayak, but I do want to talk about how they're implemented. This is a pretty well made kayak for the price range. I don't really see anything that gives off any alarms for me as far as, you know, cutting corners anywhere. If anything, you know, maybe they used a little too much plastic. Maybe they cut a little bit of a corner on that decking material, not being like an insulated, soft material. I think that it will suffice for most people. The one thing that this kayak kind of lacks that you don't need, but it would be kind of nice, is hole storage. There's no hole access on this kayak. There's no latch, nothing. So if you want to plumb any electrical lines or anything like that, you're going to have to install your own hole access, or you're going to have a bunch of wires all over the deck of your kayak. Personally, I don't like that. I get it though. A lot of newer kayaks have the open storage areas and a front tank well and a rear tank well. So it's just something to think about if you want to run lights, if you were to want to run cords for a dedicated power system, something like that, you're going to have issues plumbing it because there isn't any hole access. That, or you're going to have to cut some hole access for yourself. One thing that really stands out is how high these sidewalls are. I mean, this kayak stands up really high out of the water. Something that I'm fine with. I think it really helps with that secondary stability. So now I'm going to take some of my gear out of the kayak. Going to go ahead and do a stability test with it. As you can see, it's pretty nimble for the size. Pretty responsive to the paddle stroke with the seat in the raised position. I mean, that secondary stability is no joke. It's pretty good. Reaching back behind you to get stuff out of your crate isn't going to be an issue. Reaching forward to get stuff out of here, not really an issue. So as you can see, standing isn't an issue. I'm not a small guy at all. So for some really big dudes, this could be a problematic venture. But tons of deck space to kind of move around. And it's a pretty stable platform. When you're in the low position on this kayak, it is really stable. So you should be able to reach out for a fish, you know, put some weight out to the side without really too many problems. So let's just see what we can do. Jeez. The secondary stability on this thing is kind of sick. So here's the side saddle. This little thing right here, the handle, kind of gets in the way, but it's not too uncomfortable. At this point, you can reach back and get pretty much anything you need to out of the kayak. So let's just chat really quick about some of the negatives. For me, the rod holders are a nice feature, but I don't think they really work. And I don't know if it's because the kayak, the front of the kayak isn't long enough for it to really work the way you'd want it to. Shorter rods, it might work a little bit better. After I played with it a little bit, it wasn't a feature that I really kept going back to use. I feel more comfortable having my rods in a crate stored upright, or in one of the angled rod holders right here that come with the kayak. And these are solid rod holders right here. They're installed well and all that stuff. The feel-free track system, the Unitrack, that is on the 3 Waters Kayak, I'm not a big fan of. It works. I have talked about it in other videos. Just not a huge fan of it. And kind of the last thing is, if you get this kayak, you're gonna need a rudder, especially if you fish anywhere that has wind or a current. But it is a very fast kayak for its length at 12 feet. But when you stop paddling, it kind of wants to turn to the left. It's kind of annoying. It's not a deal breaker, but I mean, here we go. Spin it to the left. Pretty much every time I was out paddling, you know, when I'm actually actively paddling the kayak, it's fast, it stays pretty straight, but the second you let off to go pick up your rod to make a cast, it's turning. And that's just something that I really don't like. So you're gonna need a rudder, and a rudder will fix that issue. So, you know, don't freak out. There is a solution to it. Most of your bigger fishing kayaks that are stable, they tend to need a rudder, especially in those types of conditions. So it's not really a knock on this kayak. It's just kind of a forewarning. Sure, you can get into it for $1,000, but plan on spending another $200 to $250 on a rudder. The great thing about it though is it's pre-plumbed for the rudder. You don't have a whole lot of stuff you're gonna need to do to get it set up. It's rudder ready, so that's a great thing. I think the body of this kayak and the whole design are actually gonna be the basis for the Feel-Free Dorado, which is a pedal drive kayak that Feel-Free is working on. And if that's the case, guys, look out for the Dorado, because the Dorado is gonna be stable and it's gonna be fast. It's pretty cool to maybe see a little bit into the future by looking at this kayak. I can't verify that for sure. I don't work for them and I'm not on their pro staff or anything like that. So I don't know for sure, but I think it's gonna be that same cathedral hull, same style of seating position, and I think it's gonna be really fast. So if you guys are in the market for a new kayak and you're not looking at a pedal craft, this could be a good option. I see this as a great option for people just looking at getting into it with that stability, the ability to stand up and fish, the speed that it has, and all of the features. I think it's put together really well. For under $1,000 bucks, I think it's a great option. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you to Waters Kayak Shop for letting me demo this for about a month. Really appreciate it. If you're in Central California, give those guys a ring. They'll probably have maybe this one right here for you guys to demo, to go out and try it out. That is one thing that I really suggest before you buy a kayak. Try to get it out on the water. Get out paddling in it or pedaling in it, depending on what you're looking at, because that can answer a lot of questions. So with that said, if you could hit this button right here, subscribe to my channel, I'd greatly appreciate it. And right over here is a video that YouTube thinks that you guys will like. Here's another video you should check out. And thank you guys for watching, I really appreciate it. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think about this kayak. Yeah, thanks for watching, and thanks for getting out west with Chris.